Hello YouTube, Mugluck here, and today we are going to be talking about an episode of I Tried, where we tried out the Heal Alacrity Mesmer. Now this, I should be more specific, the Heal Alacrity Mirage, which did kind of exist in the past, but it's a whole lot better now, and I'm gonna tell you why. And one of the reasons is the most recent patch made a change, and it used to be that the Mirage provided alacrity by doing ambushes with their staff. However, now they can do the ambushes with any weapon and they can provide alacrity, which means they can use any weapon, which means they can use weapons more suited to support than the staff. With the biggest one being the rifle. Now, the rifle, which currently I'm using a skin, it looks like a crossbow, but that's a rifle. When you do a normal shot, it's pew pew, but when you do the ambush, it's blarg. It's like a flamethrower for a second, except it's a healing flamethrower, and then it does all those lovely boons all around you. So the Heal Alacrity Mirage Mesmer will use the rifle and then something else. There's a version of the build that uses 2 rifles, and there's a version of the build that was recommended on Snow Crows, and I am not fluent in Mesmer. I pick it up every 3 months for like 3 hours, and then I put it down for 3 months. So I went to somebody else, and at the time of recording this video, the only version of the build that I found was on Snow Crows. They got this up really quickly. I'll have a link to it in the description, where they recommended at this time to be running rifle and scepter shield. So I ran that today and I played it for a couple of hours, and then I did all the daily strikes. I did the daily strikes and then all the Iceberg Saga strikes to try it out. And I'm just going to share my experiences with you. As always, I want to say at the front end, I am not a Mesmer main. I am not the best person in this game. I know, shocking to some of you. I understand your confusion. I'm just a dude that has got a lot of hours in this game, and I am trying out this build that is like one of the new things and sharing my thoughts on it after, I've dabbled in all the classes, and I'm just gonna share my thoughts on this compared to those. So, how does this play, first of all? First of all, it uses a few mantras, so we have to pre-cast those before the fight, so we're going to do that right now. The main things of the build is the healing one and Signet of Humility. The 3 here can change depending on the fight you're in. All of these are flexible, so you're not really like spamming those right here. However, your goal is to get to 2 or more of your clones out. So if I, hit a few buttons here, there's some clones, and then do the Shatter F1 or F2, and just keep going back and forth between those, okay? You just use the F1 or the F2 anytime they come off of cooldown, and just keep going back and forth between them. So I'm charging another mantra, and then do that one, and then do that one, and that's most of it. I'm using most of the rifle skills right now. Now, you notice I've got 22 might snacks right now. I could have a little bit more. I can just kind of sit rifle the whole time, or I could swap to this shield, and shield 5 helps with might upkeep. You can use shield 5 to help with might upkeep. However, your healing while in scepter shield is much lower, because the ambush of the scepter does not help with healing, whereas the ambush of the rifle does help with healing, which is that right there. Now, anytime you do a shatter with 2 or more clones, it will trigger an ambush just because of the traits. Some of your traits will make it so that every time you do a shatter with 2 or more of these pips, it just forces an ambush immediately. So that is more healing. We're currently using the Mantra of Healing. Let me run over here and despawn this guy right now. We're currently using the Mantra of Healing because this thing lets you recharge it every 10 seconds. So it's like you cast it to do, get it ready. Then you can cast it again. Then you can cast it again, and then 10 seconds later it's ready. So every 10 seconds of waiting, you can then hit the button 3 times and get all the benefits of hitting it 3 times. And it will do healing all around you. It will, if you look at my boons here, the quickness is coming from the console, by the way, to simulate me being grouped with a console person. So we're gonna wait for this to go away, and we are going to hit this again now. And I have got swiftness and regen and a healing explosion around me, and it makes a clone. Whenever we use our heal skill, it makes a clone. So every 10 seconds, this can just go boom, 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 and generate 3 clones and do a ton of healing around me. And then I can do another shatter with 3 clones. It's really nice. It feels like it's the way it's meant to be played. The other traits, I guess I should talk about the build here as well. So again, this feels required. This feels required. These 3 are flex slots. I'll come back to those in a second. We're using the rifle and scepter and shield. The build, which again I took from Snowcrows, credit to them, I'll have that linked below, is Chaos with Illusionary Defense, so your F2 will also help keep up protection. And you can see I hit F2, tons of boons. Illusionary Membrane, whenever you use F2, you also get Chaos Aura, which goes into Chaotic Transference. Every time you get Chaos Aura, it gives regen to allies. Your F2 also gives regen to everybody. Gain Concentration and Expertise while you have regen. That'll be always in a PvE encounter. And gain Stability when you use any Shatter skill. That's self only, so any Shatter, you gain self-stability. So you will almost always have a stack or two of self-stability, which is nice. It prevents the occasional little knockback that you didn't see coming from knocking you around. Additionally, your shatters will do an additional boon on the team. Your F1 will help keep up might, your F2 will help keep up vigor. You're spamming those two. F4 is a group-wide stability on demand. F3 is fury. Honestly though, you can keep up fury 100% of the time without that, and you can just use the F3 when you need it. I was saving it for CC primarily because it is one of your CC buttons. And then I skipped over metaphysical rejuvenation. Whenever you use a healing skill, it also grants regen to allies. So again, boom, there's regen, boom, there's more regen. Actually, correction, that has a 10-second ICD, but you're also giving regen from other sources, so this will just help keep it at 100% uptime. You don't have to rely on thinking about the internal cooldown here. Inspiration, we are taking Lesser Power Cleanse, which removes conditions whenever you use a healing skill from you and nearby allies. 1 second global cooldown, so again, helps with condition cleanse, so you're constantly curing conditions whenever you're using these mantras. Restorative mantras, this one is a choice. Restorative mantras sizably increases the healing on nearby allies as you are slamming your mantra of recovery. There's no cooldown on this. It's just whenever you use this to heal your team, it's also healing another big chunk on others. The other option is feedback, which creates a dome around the person that you are reviving. This one, in playing this class for 5 seconds, I can already see that this tooltip is crap. It says it revives the person by 5%. 5% is nothing. That's terrible. However, I think it's supposed to say 5% per pulse, and I think it does 6 pulses. Even the wiki doesn't say, I checked. So that would be 30% revive while you are also manually reviving them, making it happen much more quickly. Additionally, it will also make it the other feedback, the utility feedback, also help revive. So if you have this and you throw down the normal feedback, start reviving them, that triggers medic's feedback, then they're getting double revive from feedback plus you're reviving. Very powerful single target revive every 32 seconds. Well, it could be multi-target if there's multiple people within range of the bubble. However, you give up this major healing source, which is something that quite a few other classes that have nice revive skills do not have to think about at all. Inspiring Distortion, grant Aegis to other nearby allies whenever you give yourself Distortion or use Shatter Skill 4. So that means, again, you could use the F4 to... Actually, I didn't get Aegis right here. Hold on just a second here. Why did that not work? Grant Aegis to other nearby allies whenever you give yourself Distortion or use Shatter 4. 3 3/4 seconds Aegis. Is that broken? I guess it just doesn't give Aegis to you. I misunderstood that. While I was doing my playtime today, I thought it was giving it to me as well. I see now that it is not on self. Interesting. Okay, create a clone whenever you use a healing skill. That is really nice because we are using this 3 times per 10 seconds. Actually, more like 12 seconds with the casting time, but every 12 seconds we're using this 3 times. So that's 3 more clones that we can throw into shatters. This is super good for what we're doing. Increase healing to other allies. Summoning and illusion heals all allies around you. So again, this is also summoning illusion, so that's more healing on the team. And healing and cleanse conditions from yourself and other nearby allies when you use a shatter skill. So shatters heal teammates and also cure conditions. And you are doing the F1 and F2 shatters constantly. Going down to Mirage, this is just the ambush mechanic. Self-deception, using any deception skill will create a clone if you have any other clones active. And so, if you end up using any skills that are deception down here, you would use that. But if you're not using a deception thing, you could easily change this to something else. Nomad's Endurance, shatter skills give vigor. So your F1 through F4 helps keep vigor on the team. Strike and condition damage dealt is increased when you have vigor. Actually, you know what? In reading this a second time, this might only be vigor on self. However, this right here, the F2 gives vigor on the team for 14 seconds. So I think that's like 100% vigor uptime right there. So even if this isn't the whole team, it doesn't really matter. So Mirage Mantle gives ambush skills the ability to grant alacrity. And so anytime you hit dodge and you hit 1, there's an ambush. And also anytime you shatter with 2 or more clones out, while it'll automatically do an ambush right after that. But remember, only the rifle ambush is big healing. The Scepter Ambush is just muda, 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 which is, you know, almost no damage at all because we're building for a healer. So there's really no support from the Scepter at all. It's just the shield helps with support. Mirage Cloak increases movement speed, fine, great, whatever. Dune Cloak, Shatter Skills grant Mirage Cloak if you have enough clones present, which is 2, which is the thing I just talked about. So this is the reason why if you have 2 or more clones, you hit Shatter and it doesn't ambush and another explosion of healing in front of you if the rifle was in your hand. Now, I mentioned that these 3 utilities you can use whatever. During my time playing this today, I was mostly running this with some exceptions. Power Break is just stability on the team instantly. This is so nice. This felt really good to use. So you had 2 charges of it. So if I use, you know, there's 1, there's stability on my team, and boom, there's stability on my team. It has a 15-second cooldown, and then it comes back up again. All right, well, in the time it took me to complain, it has cooldown. So it also gives Aegis on the long cast, which seems like the dumbest thing in the world because it's a 2.25 second cast time for Aegis. But then the 2 instant cast times give stability on the party. And if you just use 1, you know, it recharges quite quickly. So this is really nice because, again, like Ranger, if you're using the glyph to give if you're using the glyph to give you stability to the party, it gives 1 stack of stability and has a long cooldown. And like 20 or 30 seconds. This is 3 stacks of stability, and you can hold different multiple charges of this. And then Mechanist is a Crisis Zone, does 1 stack of stability with a long cooldown. And again, like this one skill has all of the stability that the Mechanist has, like, multiplied. So very, very cool skill. Felt good to use after trying some of the other classes for sure. The second thing I was using sometimes was Mantra of Resolve. Now remember, our shatters are constantly curing, like, cure a condition, cure a condition, cure a condition, just over time. But if we are in a fight where there's a lot of conditions, like if I was doing Slothosaur or something, Mantra of Resolve is a lot of condition cleansing, and you can hold multiple charges of it on the team. Next thing was Signet of Illusions. This was not in the Snowcrow's guide, I don't think. I think that someone recommended this to me in chat, but it felt really good to use. This just gives you a clone every 10 seconds. And also, whenever you hit this button, it resets all your shatters. So if you have a moment where you're doing your rotation really, really well, and you've actually got all of this stuff on cooldown, and you've got clones and you can't shatter, you can use this to reset the cooldowns on your shatters and then just go again. So it was rare that happened, but it did happen on occasion, so this was nice to have. And then the one other skill I used today during the strikes was Feedback. And for any new bloods, Feedback just makes a big bubble, and any enemies in it that fire a projectile, it bounces back and they shoot themselves. So, or you can also just put the bubble like between you and the enemy, and then, you know, he can't shoot you because, you know, it'll hit the wall of it. But if you put it on top of the enemy, then all of their shots bounce back and hit them. So that was really good on like Dagda, for example. Oh, don't look at me. Don't look at me. Dagda would occasionally just spray bullets in all directions, and when I was, you know, able to do so quickly enough, I could just put the feedback bubble right on top of her, and she would just blast herself a whole lot, which is really nice. This is definitely a button that makes your brain generate the happy juice. It was really, really good. Now, my understanding from reading about it is if you were running the double rifle build, which allows you to, you know, basically play with the rifle skills, which are much better than the scepter skills for support, much more often, you would need to bring Mantra of Pain with that to keep your might stacks up. I ran Rifle, Scepter, Shield all day today, so I never ran the Mantra of Pain, but that was something else that I learned during my time. And then, you know, Signet of Humility is, of course, the Moa Signet, and just is the massive CC. I never felt like I needed CC. That was something that was really good about this build. At any time, I could hit this huge CC. If it still needed more, F3 was instant cast, shatters whatever clones I have to do more CC, and then the Rifle 4 had CC, and the Shield 5 had a little bit of CC. But we had a good amount of CC pretty much available to us at all times. Moa Signet being the first thing you reach for, because it's like, you know, really, really big. Okay, I had a couple of notes that I took down during my time playing this day. So one is that you gotta remember to hit these mantras every time you walk into a new striker raid. As soon as you walk in the door, you need to remember to charge these things. Kind of annoying. I think it's Firebrand that their stuff just charges automatically now, which I understand the reasoning why these don't. But, you know, as, you know, someone that is brand new to Mirage, I would walk in the door, start the fight, and I'd be like, crap, you know, because I would forget to charge them. So you need to remember to do that. Very utilitarian, and there's many other utilities in here that's useful as well. I just used a total of 4 during all the strikes that I did today. These 3 plus Feedback, and it felt really good. You know, it's got a very good kit down here. I've said for years that the Mesmer kit and the Guardian kit are really, really good for what they've got in their toolbox to reach for. Endurance endurance. Not something I'm used to. I've mentioned this in some of my past I tried videos for Mesmer, and it still holds true. When you're playing Mesmer, if you're not already fluent with it, you will spend a lot of time staring at these pips down here. So it's like there's stuff going on around you, but you are looking down in the bottom left-hand corner playing Subway Surfers, and you have less time to look at what's going on until you build up that muscle memory. So while you're doing that, you're not looking at your surroundings, and you're really going to pay attention to these pips. My issue is I was doing that pretty well, and I kept forgetting about endurance. Endurance, I can just hit dodge, and it forces an ambush. So what I should have been doing more is anytime my endurance hit 100%, use one of my dodges to force an ambush, and then maybe always keep the second one in reserve for when I need to do an actual dodge. That's another thing, is when you dodge roll on this character, you don't roll. You just do this, and you go like really, invincible for a couple seconds, and so that took some getting used to. There were times I tried to dodge roll out of something, and I would just shimmer, and then the shimmer would wear off, and I'm still in the thing. And so I very much, would need to build that habit, and so would you if you wish to play this build, of remembering that the dodge roll on this character is quite different from nearly everybody else's. I mentioned that ample amounts of CC were huge, and the final thing that I wrote down for my little thoughts was the healing output. Of the strike missions, the biggest challenge in terms of raw healing output is the Bone Skinner. The Bone Skinner is a very simple fight because of the way the community does it, which is wrong. Again, for the new bloods, the Bone Skinner has a bunch of mechanics where he makes the room get darker and darker and darker, and the damage you take per second increases based on how dark it is. You're supposed to run around and light torches and fight the darkness. No one does that. The whole community just goes, let's just heal through it. And because of it, the damage in the room gets so high that if you get hit by any of the stuff you're supposed to avoid, it basically one-shot kills you. So the whole fight is just fight him, and whenever he aims something bad at the group, you step left to avoid it. So the whole fight becomes step left or die. And the room is just getting hammered with area effect damage the whole time, and in like a minute or two, the boss is dead. So that's how the community does it. Because of that, he actually does more damage to the squad than almost every raid boss. There's few exceptions. And so it's a great fight for testing raw healing output. Not utility, not the toolbox, just numbers. Like, it's healing unga bunga. And I gotta say, I was playing Heal Mirage in this build for the first time. And like the last time I played something close to this was like 3 to 6 months ago for an hour. And I was able to get over 9,000, yes, all the memes, over 9,000 HPS, which if you don't play a healer, that's really high. And I didn't know what I was doing very well. If I was experienced, I probably could have easily broken 10 to 12K. That is really high HPS. Like, I felt like as long as no one stood in the instant death circles, I had no problem keeping them up. But I did feel like it was a bit too stressful to swap to Scepter Shield. So once I kind of got a feel for how the damage was, I just camped rifle the whole fight, which might have let the might stack slip from 25 down to 22 on occasion because I wasn't swapping to the shield ever, but it made it so that I stayed in that really high healing output mode the whole time. And it was really good. It was really good. There's a few healers that can't match that HPS. Like, I don't know if that's top for like healing per second among the healers, but it's got to be up there. It is really, really good in just raw healing output. Now, one question that I got asked a few times while I was doing this experiment was, how do you compare this to the Chrono? And my honest answer is it's been too long since I tried Chrono. It's not fresh in my head. I will say I miss Well of Precognition. That ability is awesome, and that's only on Chrono. Mirage doesn't have access to that. I'll have to try Chrono again sometime to refresh myself on how it feels to play. But so I miss some of the utilities from Chrono because I don't even think I'm using any Mirage utilities right now. No, I'm not. I'm not sure if any of these would even help me that much as a support. Maybe someone who's more experienced in support Mirage could answer that question in the comments section. But none of the utilities that I'm using right now are related. Yeah, not even utility. Literally none of the skills on my bar are related to Mirage. So I didn't use any today. And then feedback's not either. Yeah. So I don't know. But it definitely works, is definitely viable. How does it compare to other healers? It's an ALAC provider that does big healing output and gives all the other required boons and has stability on demand. Scourge does all of that and also gives you barrier, which effectively increases your hit point bar by 50%. Mechanist does all that and gives barrier. However, it has less access to stability by a mile. So if you really need like stability more often, like every 15 seconds our group needs stability on this fight, Mechanist can't keep up with that. Druid does big heals, does big ALAC, does boons, but also has three, if you bring all of them, ways to revive party members and save their lives if they get in trouble. This class, if you bring the revive skill, you give up a chunk of your healing output, which feels bad. So I don't know that this is going to be like a new favorite of mine, but it is absolutely viable and absolutely playable in probably all content if you get good at it. How does this build give protection? Protection comes from the shield 4 gives prot, but you don't really have to use it. I believe it was one of the shatter skills. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, right here. Whenever you use, it's the F2. So F2, which is one of the skills that's with no clones. It gives that much prot. So as long as you keep doing 2+ clone shatters, like either 2 or 3 clone shatters of the F2, you will keep prot up. Yeah, I had no problem keeping up regen, prot, fury, vigor, swiftness, 25 might or near 25 might, and alacrity pretty much at all time. Let's see, it's protect every 20 seconds. Less than that, there was another thing in here that reduced the cooldown of your shatters. This is it. So shatter skills will recharge when you gain Mirage Cloak. Sorry, shatter skills grant Mirage Cloak when you use a shatter with 2 or more clones. Anytime you gain Mirage Cloak, which includes when you dodge, it shaves 3 seconds off of the cooldown of your F1 and F2. So this right here makes it you're able to use the F1 and F2 way more often, and the F1 and F2 give you all those boons. So you're able to just use those a lot because of every time you dodge ambush. And see right here, if I hit dodge, you see the cooldown just went that much shorter. Oh, that reminds me of another nice thing about the build. You do not have to have a target as long as you know what you're doing. So if you're fighting the boss and it has one of those moments where it goes invulnerable and it's changing phases, you can still keep boons up by shattering the guys that, the clones that you already had out. You can still keep hitting. So hold on, let me tap this for a second. So I can still generate new clones. I can still shatter them. I can still dodge and ambush and be making all the boons around me, even while the enemy is untargetable at that time. So that is nice. There are some classes, as well as the old version of Mesmer, that struggle with that. Sorry, I said Mesmer Mirage, the old version of the Mirage that struggle with that. So it was nice being able to continue refreshing the boons and doing everything that was really important when the boss was not targetable. Charmon says we're using Sigil of Energy on your weapons. No, I was using the build that was recommended on Snowcrows, which was the transference and paralyzation on the sigils on both weapon sets. And I was using Runes of the Monk on the armor. And I was using Relic of Phoebe to help keep swiftness up. And I forgot to really talk about it, but the gear was a mixture of Givers and Harriers. And again, I'll have the link for the build in the description down below, which will, have the exact breakdown of all of this, but this is it right here if you want a picture. So yeah, I think that's everything. Pretty cool, absolutely viable, interchangeable with pretty much any other ALAC provider. If you needed anything really unique, it's like, oh, we need to reflect on this fight, I got you. I got feedback. We need stability, I got you. We need Aegis, it can do that too. We need a pull, you could swap out the shield for a focus and then you would have a pull. Massive CC, always on demand, huge HPS, very little access to barrier, because you've got one little thing that does barrier, which is 5-second duration, 20-second cooldown. Kind of save that for when things get spicy, I would think. But it's not a barrier spammer like the way that Mechanist and the Scourge is. But it was good. It was absolutely viable and has its own strengths and weaknesses, and maybe you'll find it right for you. And if I got anything wrong, please feel free to kindly, don't make me cry, put it in the comment section down below. I only played this for a day, and these are just my thoughts after doing it.